Hi, it's Sage and I'm here with another video, this time on The Promised Neverland. Now, The Promised Neverland is a series that I personally really enjoy and I've wanted to do some content on it, and I've decided that the best way of doing that is by doing a little roundup of the recent events, the lore that we've had recently drop, and just kind of talk about it in general. Now, we're going to start off with Lucas. Now, Lucas is a very cool dude, and he's basically one of the survivors of a mass slaughter of kids that went to a place called Goldie Pond. And Goldie Pond is meant to be a shelter. But what happens is when they go there, it turns out that Minervira, who's the main kind of ally to the children in the Promised Neverland, has been betrayed and there is no longer a safe haven here. Now we find out that the person that betrays him is Peter, and Peter is his brother, the 36th generation of the Ratteruri family. And Norman is with Peter as well, which is just, Norman's alive! I have my own thoughts as to what Norman is doing there, and I'll go through them in a moment. Now, Lucas is friends with the unnamed man, and the unnamed man I will call Mr., like Emma does for now, is still with Ray, and Ray and Mr. are still planning on breaking into Goldie Pond, which is underground. We did get that confirmation. Goldie Pond is not this large space. Even the hunting area is in fact somewhat under the earth. Now, other than finding out about Minervira and his real name and who he was, and the fact that the promise was made a thousand years ago, we also now know that he did plan for children to escape and make a choice on whether they felt that the promise should be stopped, or whether there should be a war, or whether they wanted to live peacefully. Now, we know that our children are looking for a safe haven. Whether they choose to go to the other side or whether they choose to make that this side is yet to be seen. But what we do now know is that Emma knows what the meaning of the 7 walls is. And the 7 walls will be a different path. A path for the children to take that doesn't mean all-out war and doesn't mean hiding away completely. It's also mentioned by Musica near the start. Now, Goldie Pond may have been set up by Peter, because we know that Peter is the one that betrays James, or Minervira. And we know that Peter is in charge of another place that we find out about in the more recent chapters, which is Lambada. However you say that. I assume that's how you say that. Anyway, it's an experimental plantation. And by experimental, I think they are literally experimenting. And in this case, most likely on genetic alteration and cloning. Trying to clone the perfect meat. Trying to give a GMO product to the masses. So they've picked out somebody like Norman, who excels all of their wildest dreams when it comes to intelligence, and they're using that to create meat of the highest quality available every time. And we find this out from a pen cap. Now, there's a pen cap hidden in a little drawer, and when put on, the promise pen, I think, is like the generic term for it. It reveals all this information about 7 walls and the Lambada plantation, and it also talks about all of the other plantations and the pathway to the other side that is located in all of the other plantations, like Grace Hills Farm. Or Grace Fields. I think I said Fields. Might have said Hills. Not sure. Doesn't matter. The gist of it is that we got a massive information jump, and that is a condensed version of it. So moving forward onto Norman, I think that Adam is proof that Norman may have already escaped. Because for Adam to be outside of the compound and alive, he must have escaped. And Adam himself is unlikely to be smart enough to escape. So, what of the group that we're currently following at Goldie Pond with Adam? Well, Oliver is the leader along with Lucas, who is the most trusted out of the group. And Lucas has been teaching these children how to shoot and defend themselves. And now they teach Emma and the other children as quickly as they can. Well, some of the other children. Most of the children they tell the plan to, and the plan for most of them is for them to run and hide and try not to get involved with the slaughter, the literal slaughter that will be happening. And unfortunately, all hell breaks loose in the minds of the children as the music for the hunting begins early. Now, as that begins early, Oliver reassures everyone and tells them to split into 4 squads, which is what we're starting to see now. One going after Luce, which is who we saw in the most recent chapter. One going after Noose and Numa. One going after Lord Bayon, and one going after Lewis. Now, Lewis, I think, may be one of the last ones we get to see taken out, as he, plot-wise, seems to be a very sadistic and probably the most angst causing within the group, as Lewis likes to leave a victim alive to become a stronger hunter. Now, Luce, who I mentioned, is the first target that we get to see potentially taken down. And what we see happen is that the badge wearing girl, who is called Gillian, basically goes all out, and it's so cool. She's there with these machine guns, and she goes, "Eat lead," and like, ooh, it's a good moment. It's powerful having this very frail looking girl have her coat flouish back and go at it with the guns. And she gives them an onslaught. She slaughters all of Luce's minions and hodderizes the demons. It is good stuff. And Luce is left rather wonderfully with her looking down on him, having explained exactly how they worked it all out, exactly how much they know, and is there pointing a gun to his unmasked eye, ready to kill him at the end of the chapter. And he says, you know, he's panicking, but she says to him, "Game, set and match. This is the end for you, rich boy." There's some really good writing in The Promised Neverland, which is why I personally really enjoy it. And these lines, they were just well timed, and the art has been pretty good recently, and so it's really working for me. So that's a kind of recap over what roughly happened, and now I guess I'll go through some of my thoughts on the most recent chapter. I thought that this was a very strong chapter. I think that the story's moving along quite well, the plot's moving along quite well, and I think this fight scene had really good timing. So I'm really quite happy with this chapter. I'd give it a solid 9, if I'm really honest. There are some quotable panels, some quotable lines. There are ones that I would want to redraw myself as an artist, just because I really enjoyed them. I do sometimes redraw my favourite panels. And yeah, it was a good one this week. But I don't want to take too long waffling on. Next week I will either do a live reaction to the chapter or another review, but a bit more detailed. If you could let me know which one you prefer in the comments, that would be wonderful. That's been Sage.